Adventures of the Arrowverse, Episode 3. This is Arrowverse Podcast. If you enjoy, hit the like button down below. Subscribe if you're new. Turn notifications on so you don't miss an episode. We upload every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Central. And I hope you enjoy the episode. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Arrow Season 3. You've already left your opinions for the season on my Discord server, Arrow's Discord server. If you want to be a part of the podcast, you can do that by, again, joining my Arrowverse Discord server in the description down below. It'll be one of the top links in the description. Join it, leave your opinions, and they'll be featured in episode 4, which will be talking about Arrow, season 4. And at this point in time, it is planned to have a special guest, the first ever guest of the podcast on that episode. So it's very exciting to see that. Hope you guys are excited for that as well. And yeah, so let's get right into it. Arrow Season 3 was kind of a downgrade from Season 2 and Season 1. It was kind of one of like the worst seasons the show's had, in my opinion. The writing really wasn't that great, but there are definitely some like highlights that I'm going to be talking about that I did like about the season. One of the reoccurring characters in the show, at least for the first 5 seasons and then season 8, was Malcolm Merlyn. He showed up pretty much, he literally showed up season 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then we got him again for a special appearance in season 8. Obviously because it was the last season, so they brought him back, which is very well done, and anything with Malcolm tends to be really good. But I wrote this down because I want to talk about it because it's been nagging at me ever since I watched it. There was a scene, obviously the season's dealing with the whole thing with the League of Assassins, Malcolm Merlyn, who happened to Thea, and the lead up to finding out who caused Sarah Lance's death, which happened in 302, I think it was. Died or 301 at the end. I don't think it was 301. 302, somewhere around there. We found out Sarah died, we didn't know by who until later in the season, but it was connected to the League of Assassins due to Malcolm. While Malcolm didn't kill Sarah, he did set up his own daughter to do it, Thea. But there was a scene where they were tracking down Malcolm, and at the time they thought Malcolm had killed Sarah. They weren't sure, but they assumed it was him because he was in Star City when he was resumed dead, which was the first time that Oliver ever learned that Malcolm never really was dead. If you want to talk about controversy there, you know, how do you not know you didn't kill a man? But whatever. I guess everyone just assumed because the Arrow was involved, he died. Maybe Oliver thought he actually did do it. I don't know. But, I mean, I guess he did get close to the heart. But still, I mean, you probably should have made sure. You know, he was dealing with the city collapsing and all that. You know, I don't know. But still, you can talk about how he didn't know and all that aside. But there was a scene where Oliver took a shot at Malcolm with nanites, and Malcolm said he took them out. Fast forward to 311 or 12 or 13 or somewhere around there later in the season, and Oliver says that he can track Malcolm using the nanites he hit him with 4 months ago, which would have been the episode where Nyssa came in to help find Malcolm Merlyn, and where Oliver hit Malcolm with nanites, and they said that he took them out. And Oliver couldn't find Malcolm at that point because, quote-unquote, Malcolm got rid of them. Clearly he didn't, unless we found out that Oliver managed to successfully tag Malcolm a second time, and with Malcolm's consent, and not try to kill him or bring him in. Yeah, that wasn't good writing. And that's been nagging at me the whole time because I really want to talk about that. How the hell, like, you would think if the nanites were working in Malcolm that Oliver would do whatever. And that's what we're led to believe. And then you fast forward later in the season. Now, I'm sure everyone who was watching this show when it was actually airing, not what I'm doing, just rewatching the season 2 times in a row each week, back-to-back episodes, I'm sure no one actually noticed, or at least not a lot of people. But because I'm doing what I'm doing, which is watching each episode back-to-back, not waiting like a week to watch, which for you guys, if you're watching it on a regular basis, would have been, I don't know, 5 to maybe 10 weeks, somewhere around there. I don't know if there were breaks in between, that's why I said 10, but it would have been a while, is my point. So it's 10 forget, maybe that's their point. Maybe they're expecting the viewers to forget that, but it was just lousy writing, it sounded like. They could have mentioned that Oliver put Nance and Malcolm, like, when they started working together. Not to the point where Oliver didn't find Malcolm even though they thought he killed Sarah, and he just gave up. And he just believed Malcolm out of nowhere. I mean, that's not Oliver. Oliver wouldn't just believe Malcolm out of nowhere when he says, I took the nanites out. Like, no, Oliver would push that. He wouldn't just, not believe it. I mean, Malcolm's a known sociopathic liar and murderer, so, he wouldn't just sit tight on that. So that part made no sense to me. When I was watching it, it made sense. And the first episode and the second episode came along, and it was like, what are you doing? That was horrible writing. So yeah, I just want to talk about that, because like I said, that was nagging at me the whole time. Waiting to talk about it. Obviously, we're dealing with, like I said, the League of Assassins. We saw Nissa Al Ghul come in, obviously because of Sarah's death. Sarah being connected to the League of Assassins. And we're still kind of reeling from the whole Mercuru thing a little bit in 301. Oliver and Felicity were starting to date, and then they got blown up, so Oliver decided to go back to how pretty much he was before, which can't be with anyone he actually cares about, which he told Felicity in season 2. And just to be the Arrow, he can't be the Arrow and be with Felicity, which obviously that changed later in the show, but it made sense at this point in time. Oliver got blown up with Felicity. She very well could have died. He very well could have died. And he decided to make a choice, and honestly, I believe it was the right call at that point in time. I love Oliver and Felicity together, don't get me wrong, but at that point in time, I do back Oliver on that. That, maybe Oliver needs to be the Arrow and not be Oliver Queen, which obviously was a whole thing throughout the season. That was a big theme, was Oliver Queen can't be the Arrow. He can't be both. He has to choose to be Oliver Queen or the Arrow, and obviously he chose to be the Arrow for a reason, which was to save the city, to protect people, to be a hero. He couldn't do that as Oliver Queen. So he decided to be the Arrow throughout the entire season, at least a majority of it. And really, until it came to the League of Assassins, both Oliver Queen and the Arrow died. And here comes this newly reborn hero, if you want to call him. Yeah, let's call him a hero. To protect the world, in a way, at the League of Assassins. I mean, it was a massive thing throughout the season. Now, the reason why I say the season wasn't that good, again, besides the writing, Ra's al Ghul, even though it was a Batman villain, and I don't know at the point in time if this is still going on, but concerning people were comparing Arrow to Batman, which I could see, but I never really consider Arrow like a Batman show. I get it, it's dark. I get it, Green Arrow's like more like Batman than Green Arrow. But, I mean, it's its own thing. Like, you don't see Batman running with a bow and arrow and saying, "You have failed this city." You don't see him doing that. Like, you see him saying other crap. Like, you don't see him saying that or doing that. And I was more, vengeful than Batman ever was or ever will be, because he takes more lethal force than Batman ever does or ever would or will. At least the Batman that we know, unless some people decide to ruin that. DCU. Zack Snyder. Gonna get a lot of hate for that one. Cancel culture. Right? Movie culture. Everyone hates when I talk crap about Zack Snyder's movie and how they did Batman in it. I don't like Batfleck's Batman. I like the suit. I liked how he played him, but, Anyways, just having Roz as a character, I don't think was really good. The actor was great. He had some great lines and everything, and he was kind of threatening, but at the same time, he was more like an anti-hero / anti-villain. Like, you could tell in some way that, like, he was the villain. But at the same time, you could tell, like, maybe he was trying to give Oliver, like, away from the life that he started, which was losing everyone to potentially saving everyone with any possible way, instead of just being the Arrow or Oliver Queen. The Ra's al Ghul is going to give Oliver one identity, which was the Arrow, and Oliver was okay with that. At least so we thought. Obviously, that, was changed throughout the entire thing. But still, I don't know. I didn't really care for it. The League of Assassins, that whole storyline was cool, seeing Nana Parbat. I know I didn't say that right, sue me. But, obviously that was a recurring location throughout the seasons following, like season 4, 5, 7? Not 7, I think it was 8. 6 and 7, they didn't show it, but, which again, it's him with Malcolm. Kind of ironic, isn't it? Malcolm shows up and we get Nana Parbat, or at least, with Malcolm in a season, we get Nana Parbat. And again, I know I'm not saying that right, sue me, but, that whole thing was really cool, and Oliver's fighting with Ra's al Ghul, where he actually died, or came close to it, apparently, was very cool. Connecting it to, the flashbacks with Maseo and, Tatsu and their kid. I'm forgetting his name, for the God's sake of me, I'm forgetting it, I don't know why. It was a very good season in that way, connecting it more so to the flashbacks than the other two did. Maybe a little bit too much, but I think some portions of that were really good, again, with Maseo, Tatsu, connecting it to their kid's death with the virus, and then Maseo giving the virus to Ra's al Ghul to use it to give Oliver, quote-unquote, his ascension to Ra's, so he could become the next Ra's al Ghul, which we learned Malcolm set Oliver up for that, by Oliver's, wish to, do that. And then we're dealing with Oliver not telling John or Laurel or anyone on Team Arrow about that, which ended up causing a lot of problems season 3, early season 4, which we'll talk about next week. But, I think that whole thing was good. While I don't agree with some stuff, I think seeing, like, because they had the viewers, I had believed that Oliver was actually turning over, and then they changed it. Like, we found out the next episode that he wasn't actually changed. It was a really good storyline for that episode or two. Wish I had stayed throughout the entire season, with the good writing, but, that changed. We had Barry show up in the season, at the end, to help Oliver's plan to get Team Arrow out of Nana Parbat after they were captured by Ra's and Oliver. We had Ray Palmer for the first time ever show up, who took Oliver's company early in the season. I always liked Ray, but I feel like Legends kind of screwed him over with the writing. I don't care for Legends season 4 through 7. I really don't. And I feel like Armageddon for Flash, when Ray came in, it was like a big redemption for the character, for me as a fan of Ray and the Atom. I think seeing that with what Ray did, helping Barry and Armageddon and interacting with Chester and all them, I think it was a big redemption arc for me, for Ray, at least. It felt like the OG Ray that we knew, but also like a little bit different. It felt like more of an advanced Ray Palmer, but you still could feel those OG vibes that Legends kind of just threw away in a dumpster like they did with all the characters in the show. Again, that's my opinion. You can share your own. I just hate Legends, but we'll get to that in like 10 weeks or something. But, well, actually, no, it'll be like, what's 7 plus 6? Whatever that, 13 weeks, we'll probably be at Legends. So you'll be hearing a lot of that in those episodes. In the Legends of Tomorrow arc of the podcast, you'll be hearing a lot of my ranting going on there. And then we're actually developing the Atom with Ray Palmer becoming the Atom, making the suit out of Dorsar Alloyed. Everything with Ray was just amazing. Even the Felicity stuff. Even though I didn't really care for Felicity being with Ray, it was really good nonetheless. Because, I mean, Ray, like Oliver said, there's a decent chance Ray and Felicity could be related. And let's be real here. there probably is a decent chance, because the way they were so dorky and just like the same energy bouncing off each other, like, it was really good. But let's just say it felt like a Cisco and Chester kind of thing with Ray and Felicity, where like they're the same kind of character with the same energies, the same kind of characteristics. Obviously, they're different in that way, but they are also connected by the same things, and they care about the same things. Which is why, like, you have on Flash, when Cisco left, Chester stayed. That's the whole reason behind it, because they couldn't have two of the same characters being on at once. And, you know, you could argue that same reason for Ray, even though he appeared a couple times on Arrow after. But you could argue that's why he went to Legends and not stayed on Flash, because it would be too much, I think, for the show. And then, honestly, he, quote-unquote, died in Season 3 at the end. He exploded in the building by the Atom Suit, kind of ironic. But inevitably, Ray found out Oliver was the Arrow because of the Atom Suit, which, I mean, you know. But, yeah, it was really good. Anything with Ray making the Atom, becoming the Atom, finding out Oliver's identity, talking to Oliver about the Arrow, him knowing he's the Arrow now. To me, it was a really good throughout the season. It's one of the highlights of the season, and I think the only highlight throughout the season. It was always interesting to me with how, like, on some level, you could always tell that Thea never liked Malcolm, obviously, because why would she? Before Oliver came in and told her everything, you know. And those were good scenes too. Thea and Malcolm early in the season, those are really, really good scenes. But at the same time, as it got going in the season when things started kicking up, it really was like, why are you guys going down this route? Like, I mean, Malcolm saved Thea's life and Thea's still giving Malcolm crap. I get why. I understand why. But again, I think it was too much on the writing part. For me, at least, I don't know, I didn't really care for that crap. I understand why Thea was pissed at Malcolm for a while, but it just kept on going and adding on and adding on and adding on. Give it a break, you know? Like, I don't know. Just coming from a point of view of, like, Malcolm and, like, looking how much Malcolm actually cares for Thea, and Thea doesn't even give a crap, even though she should at this point. Like, I don't know. Or at least during that point in time of the season, she probably should have been more nice than Malcolm. Season 4 or 5, I could very well argue that he deserved it, but, I mean, this early in the season, I don't think so. I think he deserved better than what Thea was getting, especially everything he did for her, but still, that's my opinion, I don't know. But, we got Slade Wilson back this season for the second time. Well, the second time since season 2. And he was obviously in the present day on the island. Malcolm let him loose to help push Oliver and Thea to become ready for Ra's al Ghul, because for whatever twisted reason, Malcolm thought that if I can't teach them, let's have the person who murdered their own mother and corrupted almost the entire city and destroyed it, and destroyed almost the entire city, apologies for that, corrupted a quarter of the city and destroyed, or nearly destroyed all of it, and nearly caused hundreds of millions of deaths. You know, let's let them loose. Great idea, Malcolm. But seeing Slade back, I always loved Slade. And as I said in episode 2 of the podcast, seeing Slade back was always like, whenever he appeared, it was like Steven and whoever played Slade, I'm forgetting, were always so good together, no matter how bad the season was. I mean, Slade always brought it to the show. I think we can all agree on that. The actor always brought it, no matter what lines he was given. He always gave it 100,000% effort. And, I mean, Steven did too, but the lines were just not that good, so it didn't really work well. But, I mean, with Slade, it always panned out. It never really seemed like a bad line. Everything always, like, fit together with Slade. I don't know why I feel that way, but I do whenever Slade shows up. Like, it just feels like everything connected when Slade comes in and starts talking about it or talking about the island or everything pretty much. It just fits to me. Count Vertigo was a recurring thing this season. We had dealt with it in 301 with Oliver realizing that being the Arrow and Oliver Queen isn't going to work. He has to choose one. And that whole thing. And then Laurel, what am I'm sounding like Anatoly. Laurel Lance. Can't say Laurel. The Black Canary. She ended up interacting with Count Vertigo and seeing all these hallucinations at a point in time. She hadn't told Quentin about Sarah's death, which I get why she did it, but again, I felt like it was dragged out too much. I get a couple weeks, maybe even a couple months, but I really do feel like it was truly dragged out just for, the whole ending of the season where Quinn's pissed off at everyone, which I guess matches the character, but then twisting around a matter of like 2 minutes at the end of the season, and now he's buddy-buddy with Oliver and everyone else. That part made no sense to me. They very well could have played it differently and had it to where, like, Laurel told him, like, a couple weeks after Sarah died, it wouldn't have been that bad. Obviously, there would have been something going on with Quentin, but it wouldn't have been, like, as bad as it was. It wouldn't have been dragged out. They could have had Quentin on Team Arrow. I mean, it could have worked 100 times better than it did. And I feel like, don't get me wrong, Quentin played the part well. But I just feel like it was dragged out. And that's why I don't really care for the season, because everything felt dragged out. I mean, it's like Flash Season 4, Arrow Season 4. Everything was dragged out. It very well could have been a completely different season if these things weren't dragged out with Quentin and Laurel and Sarah. And I feel like the League of Assassins was the only thing that really wasn't dragged out. I mean, Oliver becoming the heir to Ra's al Ghul and then it ending 2 episodes later. Why couldn't they do that throughout the entire season? That was a good ending to the season with everything being compact and not dragged out throughout 10 episodes. I don't know what it was, but I did not give a rat's butt about really anything this season besides the end of the season where everything was like quick to the point, it was compact, it was ready to go, it was all that. It was good. The beginning of the season, while it was okay, again, it had a lot of dragging out, and it made no sense as to why you're dragging all this out. It just ended, like... Speaking of the ending of Season 3, it really did feel like the ending of the series in a way, and I don't know the entire reason why. I'm assuming maybe they thought the show would actually end or they wouldn't get picked up by CW, so they just wanted to be safe. They wanted to have a blanket down in case something happened. Because Season 2 probably, or early Season 3 ratings probably pushed it, so they were like, we need to be careful here. Which I respect why they did that, and it was a good ending, I think, with Oliver being happy with Felicity, and they ending it there. And if the show did end there, I think we all would have been okay with that on some level, even though Oliver and Dick's relationship blew up. But, I mean, aside from all that, I mean, we wouldn't have really needed a Season 4 at that point. I think we would have understood everything that happened. More than likely, eventually, Oliver and Dick would have come around anyways, so it wouldn't have been a whole controversy. It would have been a good end to the show. Don't get me wrong, the ending we got in Season 8 was the best series finale we've ever had on anything, in my opinion. Across all television, across all superhero shows, it is hands down the best finale I think we are ever going to see and we ever got on a superhero-related show, or really anything else for that matter. I don't think anything really topped that. I don't even think Flash could top that whenever they do the finale. I mean, I really do think Arrows was top of the line. It brought everything together. Season 3, if it was the finale, the finale of Season 3, if it was actually going to be the end, I would have been okay with that. But compared to season 8's finale, the series finale, I mean, it was far better. So I'm glad it made the seasons. I'm just saying, if season 3 were to be the last, and it was, that was in fact the series finale, I would have been okay with that as a viewer, because they did tie off loose ends. They did finish them. It wasn't like a continuous story into season 4. It was ending. It was done. Season 4 was like a whole new show in many different ways. And going out season 5, 6, 7, and even 8, it was like a new reborn show. Which, as for season 4 of all these shows, seems to be that way. Like Flash season 4, we actually got a new Team Flash, new Barry, new Flash. I mean, Barry looking at things a different way now after coming on the Speed Force. It was like that whole thing with season 4, and even now, we're still kind of getting that vibe of this is like a whole new show since season 4, not really 1, 2, and 3. But I do feel that with Arrow too, looking forward in other seasons. But I do think season 3 was a good ending point for the OG seasons. Even though I didn't care for season 3, it was something that we're always going to look back on and be like, these are the OG seasons of Arrow, 1, 2, and 3. This is what we have to look at for the show. It wasn't horrible, but it could have been better. I think we can all agree on that. It could have been a lot better for what we got in the third season of the show. We had the first crossover this season, which I'm not going to get too much into, because in the podcast later, more than likely this year, hopefully, we're going to be talking about crossovers individually in an episode dedicated to a crossover. For example, Flash vs. Arrow, The Duet, World's Finest, Crisis on Earth X, Invasion, Elseworlds, Crisis on Infinite Earths, Earth Prime, all of them. We'll be talking about each crossover in one individual podcast episode when we're done talking about all these seasons of the Arrowverse. But I mean, this is obviously the first interaction. The second interaction with Barry as the Flash, the first interaction happened in the Flash pilot, but it's actually connected to, I think, 301 of Arrow in the ending. I want to say that or 302 ending. It was somewhere around there. I'm pretty sure it was 301 ending, where Oliver got the call from Barry asking for assistance and, guidance, and Oliver obviously went and connected to the Flash pilot. So I'm assuming that's what came in there. So, yeah. It was a pretty good crossover, I'll say that much. But you'll learn more about my opinions when we get down that road in 30 weeks or something. I've already planned it all out, and what I can tell you is hopefully by the end of 2022, assuming everything goes according to plan, we should be done. We really should be done with all the seasons of the Arrowverse by then. I don't know about crossovers. I would assume we would be. And obviously 2023 would be a whole nother level for the podcast, which I'll talk more about when we get closer to that. But I do have plans for this podcast to continue even after we are done with all the seasons of the show, at least talking about them for that point in time, and the crossovers. So I'll talk about that when we get down to it, obviously. But I do have plans for it. So don't expect this podcast to just end when we're done talking about the seasons and crossovers. It'll still continue in its own way. And I have plans for that, like I said. I'll talk about it later. But yeah, I think that's pretty much the entire season wrapped up, because I can't think of anything else to say. So I'm going to get to community reposts, responses. Can't talk. Obviously, you guys had a day less. Well, not obviously, I didn't mention this before. Apologies. I'm recording this the 2 nights before you guys are seeing this. You guys see this Wednesday morning. I'm recording this Monday night, because my dumb, idiotical head forgot that Superman and Lois is on Tuesday nights, and I tend to do a review of Superman and Lois every night the episode airs. Which, quick self-advertisement here, go to my main channel, Veteran in the description down below. You can watch that review, and if you do watch it, Let me know in the comments in that video and say, hey, I support you on both channels. If you want to. You don't have to. It'd just be cool to see. So go watch that review. It's out now at the time you guys are seeing this, so hopefully it's a good review and not a crappy one. And, yeah, go watch that. Yeah. It's like my own opinions, but not really. It's a review, not opinions, which is why I'm doing this podcast. So let's get into the community responses. First one, Arrow Season 3, to me, tried something, and while good on paper, was bad execution. Positives are that this was Arsenal and Laurel's best season. I do agree with that. I think Arsenal and Laurel really shined this season. Again, with the Laurel and Quentin stuff, I think it was dragged out. But I do agree, this, I think, was a good season for Arsenal, especially Arsenal. And I do think it was bad execution as well. Someone else responding to the first comment, I agree with the first sentence, but not the second, meaning that Arrow Season 3 to me tried something while good on paper, was bad execution. This person agrees with that, but disagrees that this wasn't Arsenal and Laurel's best season. Felt like that Laurel wasn't the best vigilante-wise. I feel like the writers just had bad writing and wasn't who I thought the character to be, or what, I don't know. But I felt like she would have been she should have stayed a lawyer helping that way. I didn't like Thea's growth as well with Malcolm and being a part of the team. Definitely didn't like every single episode, but some were very good and my favorites out of all of Arrow. And that's pretty much it. We didn't get many this week. So again, if you want the episode to be longer, you can join my Arrowverse server. Again, I know I was short a couple days because I delayed it, and then now I'm recording earlier. Obviously, you have your own time frame. I'll be sure to get it out later and earlier now. I didn't plan on that happening, so that's apologies on my end. I am trying to make these episodes as long as possible. I know someone mentioned I'm not going into much detail. I'm not taking notes while I'm watching this season. I do that for episodes when I'm reviewing them. If I were to take notes over every single episode, we'd be here for a good 4 hours, and I can't do that. My voice will not put up with it. It's like I can barely record for 40 minutes without my voice really going out. So I can't just do 2 hour long podcast episodes. I'm trying to hit a good mark. It's just that with Arrow Season 3 and 2, I was trying to compact everything, especially Season 3, because I did not care for the season. I can tell you right now, when we get to Arrow Season 5, where I was really intrigued when I watched it the first time, and even every time after, I can tell you what, the episode's going to be really long, and it'll be something that a lot of you have been waiting for. And going to Season 6, 7, and 8 of the podcast with Arrow Season 6, 7, and 8, those episodes will be really, really lengthy and in really good detail. Because I was really intrigued in 5, 6, and 7, and 8. Season 4 will be around this length of an episode. Well, maybe a little bit longer because we have a guest on. And he'll be giving a lot of opinions about that. We'll be going back and forth. And then obviously your opinions will be involved in it. So it'll be a longer episode than this one. And I am trying. to make it longer. I think this one's going to be around 34 minutes or so, which is good. I think it's longer than the first episode, but I am trying to make these episodes longer. I can't just, really do that on my own. It's a community effort. So if you want these episodes to be longer, you need to send in your opinions, because this podcast is to interact with you guys, and if you guys aren't, then, I'm not saying I'll quit, but if you want the episodes to be longer, send in your opinions. I'm not saying you guys in the main reason the episodes will be longer. Obviously, that's not me, not you. And like I said, Season 3, I wasn't really much interested in it. Not 5, especially 5, 6, 7, and 8. Those episodes will be longer. I am telling you those episodes will be longer because I was more intrigued and interested and was able to keep up with the story in those seasons compared to 1 through 4. Season 2 was amazing, as I said in the episode. But I feel like I was really compacting everything. Season 5, 6, 7, and 8, whenever I explain it to people, I'm really not. So you'll see that in those episodes, and they will be longer. I'm going to do that to make sure they're longer, because I know that's what you guys want. More detail and all that. So I'm going to be working on that in episode 5, 6, 7, and 8. Maybe episode 4 too, we'll see. But yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed the episode of the podcast. Thank you for all the support. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Have a good night. And I'll see you guys next week for Arrow Season 4, Episode 4 of the podcast. And yeah. Stay safe, guys.